back to Collision this past Saturday night. Mariah May.
What? Yo, has anybody seen Mariah May? Anybody? No, you haven't either. Okay, I thought so. This is the Wrestling Old Head. You have entered the portal of pro wrestling, and in this portal, we are looking for Mariah May, and we're going to try and break down her disappearance from AEW and where she might be. But in this portal, you're traveling through another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. This story is about Mariah May. She was driving to California, to Los Angeles. She didn't make it. There was a detour through the Tony Khan zone. The Tony Khan zone. No, I mean, look, all joking aside, I'm under the understanding that she is on AEW Collision, currently embroiled in a series of matches, which I cannot technically call a storyline, with Anna Jay. And in this program, it is very similar to what you may see or may hear about what goes on Ring of Honor through their online membership television show that they've been doing for a while, or even on Rampage, where it's just you pit two people together, put them in the ring, they have a series of matches embroiled in some kind of a bitter rivalry, and then they have a culmination and an ending to their feud. That is a very basic cookie cutter way of starting a program between two superstars or wrestlers and getting them involved in the product. So I'm really not mad at that, but here's the underlining problem that I have with Mariah May being relegated to Collision, which I think about 70 to 80% of Collision is normally taped now, which means they've given up on giving it the aura and putting it alongside Dynamite as one of the top two shows that AEW puts together. Essentially, Collision is an extra hour of Rampage. Now, if you're a professional wrestling fan and you want to gobble up professional wrestling, then I don't see anything wrong with Collision. But what Collision does is they do not give you a reason to tune in. First of all, it's taped, and there is an aura. There is a stench about taped professional wrestling that just doesn't have the same hook that you would get from a live professional wrestling program. So now that it's taped, people are going to gravitate towards spoilers. They're going to be less inclined to watch the program. And then on top of that, you don't give them any type of storyline progressions, any type of exclusive angle or anything that's going to give them an opportunity to tune in. Not like how they used to have when Collision first started, where they had a nuance. They had things that were different. The opening video montage done to Elton John, or to the opening video packages where there was wrestlers in the back talking about the matches that were coming up later on in the show, so you have some excitement, and then they lead into the opening theme, and then after the opening theme you cut to the live shot of the crowd, fireworks goes off. It gave it an opportunity to feel special, which is something that you just don't really see a lot from AEW. AEW has a problem with letting something breathe. They also have a problem with organization. They throw the papers in the air and they're put back together in a pile that doesn't seem to be in order. And I'm not trying to diss on AEW at all. There's a lot of things with AEW that I'm a fan of. I am a pro wrestling fan, and my palate is generally all over the place when it comes to pro wrestling. I can enjoy multiple different types of professional wrestling. The hardcore stuff, the goofy shit, like all that, I can enjoy it. But there are some things that I just got to call a spade and keep it one thou wow. And there's a lot of the stuff in WWE I've talked about as well that kind of, I rack my brain figuring out why they're doing this. But for right now, we're talking about Mariah May. Mariah May, the Glamour. When she first started her program with Toni Storm, I have been on record on my channel as saying that I felt that if they are leading to Toni Storm against Mariah May at All In, and for all accounts they actually went that way, that I thought that it was too soon for Mariah May to be in a situation where she was going to be on the top of the women's division. I didn't feel like she was ready. Now, I'm not talking about her talent. I'm not talking about her aura. She's got the look. She's got the presentation. She has the ability to be a top woman in professional wrestling. I'm not taking anything away from her talents here. What I'm specifically talking about is what they had planned for her on the other side if she won. Because you have to have a plan. And I've spoken about this in other programs, and specifically I've spoken about it on this topic with Toni Storm and Mariah May on numerous occasions. If they were going to give Mariah May the win, do they have a plan on the other side? If it would have went my way, I would have had Jamie Hayter being involved in the match somehow, going against Toni Storm at All In. I felt like it would have been an entirely different scenario, a better match between the two, and then you could have held off Mariah May breaking up from Toni Storm just a tad bit longer. They pulled the trigger, and I got to give props to RJ City and apparently Renee Paquette. They were working together on this storyline between Toni Storm and Mariah May, and the build-up I thought was done really, really well. From the video packages to the way that Mariah May was slowly kind of transforming into Toni Storm, which was an interesting kind of a play there. It was like Single White Female, the movie, not just like, I'm not just saying that. It really was like the movie Single White Female, where Mariah May was trying to like become Toni Storm, and the obsession was taking over. I loved how she was doing the snow angels on the ground in the ring, and they had the camera shot of that. I thought that was well done. I loved like the video packages were so like bright and sharp, and there was like bubbles and just like all kinds of like, dude, I thought it was an awesome way of presenting Mariah May to the public. They had seemingly nothing planned for her on the other side of winning the AEW World Women's Championship. And she's been floundering. She's been coming out saying like, I'm ready for the division, but the division isn't ready for me, and all of these things. And we've been seeing reports. I mean, if anybody's like me, and I'm a very like, I have a cursory knowledge on the dirt sheets and all that stuff now. But back then, I used to be all embroiled in like One Wrestling with Bob Ryder, the Wrestling Observer, the PW Torch, the PW Insider, like all of these things. I was just like gobbling up wrestling news and information and stuff, and I'm not as good as I used to be. But even I was able to see that Toni Storm is working in other promotions right now, in Japan and then in other areas. And so if she's doing all of that, then fans know that she's ready to come back, but she has not been brought back yet. And her loss at All In, which my God was almost, let's see, September, October, November, like it was like 3 or 4 months ago. She has not been injured, and there hasn't been an inkling, a hint or nothing. She's just kind of cast away until they figure out how to bring her back. I feel in my heart of hearts that they're going to be bringing her back around World's End, which is in another month. And so they're just trying to buy time and keep Mariah May occupied, because she is the top champion in the women's division until Toni Storm comes back. Toni Storm gets the championship back, gains her measure of revenge. But then what do they do with Mariah May? And then what do they do with Toni Storm? Does Toni Storm come back the same character, or does she have an evolution? Those are the questions I really would have hoped that Tony Khan is getting, and kind of like delineating and brainstorming like ways to get through this and to book ahead. But the man is busy. He's got 2 professional sports teams that he is in running in some capacity with, and then he's got the number 2 wrestling company in the world for all intents and purposes. And I just don't see how you would have time to break down individual programs like that. I feel like it's very much Tony Khan just running through a simulator and trying to get by week to week on building storylines. He has a knack and is really good with building pay-per-view cards. He can build the cards, he can generate interest, and the layout and the format is really, really well done. But when it comes to episodic television week in and week out, it's not threatening, and I've said this a number of times, it's really not threatening, and people are getting hurt. Like wrestlers' evolutions, the young talent is getting hurt in the process because they're not given that chance to really hone in on their talent. Anna Jay is another one where I like Anna Jay. I think she's a beautiful woman. She's very talented, but she's kind of looking for her identity, and hopefully she's leaning into women like Madison Rayne or Saraya, like some form of veteran presence that could help guide them into finding that thing that they're looking for, you know. And I feel for Anna Jay, because I mean, a lot of people have said Anna Jay should be with Jack Perry right now. I don't disagree with that. I think it'll give her some kind of an identity. It'll give her an opportunity to stand out. She's coming out and she's still doing like the Dark Order, or when she was with Ty Conti, she's doing like that stuff still. She's like still searching for a way to stand out, and it's interesting because, you know, she's got a world of potential, and she just needs a program. She just needs one program and an identity to really separate her from the rest of the roster and get her up there. And I just don't think throwing her out there against Mariah May on Collision is going to help her out, because she's going to lose the program. She's not going to win the women's championship, and then she's more than likely going to vanish into obscurity again until they need her for another program. They've done the same thing with the Dark Order. They've done the same thing with Private Party, and look at Private Party now. They were the tag team champions with no momentum. There's no fanfare there. They jobbed them out. They were on the lower card searching for an identity, and then just because the Young Bucks were leaving, they decided to drop the titles to the Private Party. And Private Party, we thought they were going to split up. You know, I mean, these are just things. So with Mariah May, I really felt like when she won the women's championship that she was really going to get the shaft, because Mercedes Moné then won the TBS championship. And because Mercedes Moné is the TBS champion and she's getting more prominently featured on the A show of Dynamite, the TBS championship is looking more like the #1 championship in the women's division than the AEW Women's World Championship. And that is where I feel like they need to probably do a switch somehow. Somehow, Mercedes Moné and Mariah May need to meet up, and then they need to agree, hey, Mariah May, you deserve the TBS championship. Give me the AEW World Women's Championship. Fair trade. Let's move on and keep going on with business, because that's, I mean, the tides have shifted. The Women's World Championship doesn't hold as much prestige, and and Mercedes Moné is carrying the TBS Women's Championship, and she's on the #1 show, AEW television programming. So that's an issue. And I think when they bring Toni Storm back, she will inevitably retain or regain the AEW World Women's Championship. And then what do you do with Mariah May after that? And I think that's a question that needs to be answered. Hopefully Tony Khan is not going to throw her into obscurity. This river of obscurity that has been created and formed, that I start to see certain wrestlers, you know, disappear into, like the Twilight Zone. It's like Wardlow goes in it, Sammy Guevara goes in it, Dustin Rhodes goes in it, Ricky Starks has gone in it, FTR seems to be getting in it, House of Black just got out of it. Are they going to go back in it? I don't know. Serena Deeb just came out of it and just said hi. I've been gone for a while. Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie, they went back in it. Are they going to go to Ring of Honor? I don't know. That's the whole issue that I have, is just building the momentum. The Outrunners have all the momentum in the world. They're very similar to what the Acclaimed were about 2 years ago, and hopefully they keep their momentum. But do you give them the tag team championships on pay-per-view, where they're probably going to be the most over tag team in the tag team match coming up at Full Gear? Do you give them the tag team champions after Private Party just won? Do they Private Party just hotshot the belts over to the Outrunners? And then what does that do to Private Party? It's these things that, are they being discussed? Are they having meetings? Are there group chats or anything going on where they're discussing these things? You know, it's very similar. When I was 12, 13 years old, I had my own email wrestling federation through Rex Sport Pro Wrestling Fantasy, and I was in charge of writing the shows, and I would write these shows, and then I would have writers, and I would just tell them, oh, this is what I want to happen, and this is how I want to end. You take care of it. And the continuity was off. And, you know, I was 12, 13, whatever, but I went back and I looked at some of the old text and the old scripts that I ended up writing, and I very much copied things from ECW, the commentary especially. It was all Joey Styles, and the way that the matches were laid out, it was like an homage. It was like an amalgamation of WCW and the WWE with a little ECW thrown in. There was really no more thought or emphasis or attempts to build something unique, because I did not have the time. I was a 12, 13-year-old kid. And I'm really not trying to compare Tony Khan to me at 13, but there's a very similar strategy that it seems like there is, where it's like, I don't have time, so let me just put this together, and then we'll hope for the best, and it'll get us to the pay-per-view where all of my focus will be on. That's something that would work for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. That's something that would work for a major independent wrestling promotion like Game Changer Wrestling or Major League Wrestling, but that doesn't work when you're running a prime time episodic network television show that is competing in an environment that where you want to be the number 2 and eventually number 1 wrestling promotion in the world. It doesn't work. And when you have an opportunity to really stand out by building unique wrestlers, these unique young talents that are not from the WWE, that are not from New Japan Pro Wrestling, like a Mariah May, like Toni Storm, like God, I'm just drawing a blank, but like you have an opportunity to really make the best. Like the Acclaimed came out of nowhere, not tied to any other wrestling promotion prior. They have an opportunity to stand out. There's just a lot going on with that I think that they can mitigate. A lot of the talks of them being like a second-rate WWE or looking like TNA or even looking like WCW because they're really in a slump, they can mitigate that by bolstering up and going with the momentum of these talents that the fans really want to get behind, but you got to go through and you got to be instinctive and you got to roll with it sometimes. And it doesn't seem like they're really plotting out storylines anymore either, so they're kind of rolling with that. So why not roll with an opportunity to give somebody or somebodies a chance at really doing something? So hopefully with Mariah May, after Full Gear, which it doesn't even look like she's going to be on the Full Gear card, so the AEW World Women's Championship might not even be defended at Full Gear. If you can imagine how fucking crazy that is, that I'm saying that, when Mercedes Moné is going to defend against Chris Statlander the TBS Championship, maybe after Full Gear they will wake up and decide, well, our top women's world title or our top women's wrestler in the world title scene, let's give her an opportunity to be more prominently focused. Once we get Toni Storm back, then everything will be better. I really hope they have a plan on the other side of that, because if you're not watching Collision, you have no idea where Mariah May went, and you have no idea why there's no AEW World Women's Champion, because they haven't really said anything other than a few times on commentary where they've mentioned Mariah May in between matches. Mostly if you have the commercial, the non-commercial version of Dynamite where you can watch through the commercial breaks and hear commentary, they might mention it a time or two, but other than that, no freaking clue what's going on with Mariah May. So hopefully they change that, because I really think she's talented. I'm a big fan, and I'd really like to see her get more prominent displays on television for a number of reasons, not just because she's attractive, but also because she's got a whole lot of talent. So you guys let me know what you think. Is Mariah May in the Tony Khan zone, or is she coming out of that pool of obscurity and is really going to make a splash at Full Gear and beyond? You guys let me know in the comments. Thumbs up on the way out. As always, you guys, stay tuned for more.